Hello and welcome. The winds are shifting, and with them, the illusions we once held as certainties begin to dissolve. The world we have known, the liberal world order that shaped global institutions, culture, and belief in progress, now teeters on the edge of dissolution. For many, this moment feels disorienting, even apocalyptic. But endings are also beginnings. In the liminal space between what was and what will be, we are invited into reflection, into rediscovery, and perhaps into rebirth. For more than a quarter of a century, a consensus ruled much of the globe, a shared faith in liberal democracy, open markets, technological progress, and the triumph of individual autonomy. This consensus shaped not only political life, but the very texture of daily experience. Yet beneath its promises lay deep contradictions. Since the 1980s, the liberal order became increasingly removed from its earlier ideals. It has gradually morphed from a system promoting liberty, equity, and justice into one marked by surveillance, technocracy, and social fragmentation. Its champions, once defenders of free expression and civil debate, began to suppress dissent in the name of safety, inclusion, and ideological conformity. The shift has been subtle but unmistakable. Language itself has been weaponized. Speech is no longer a medium for discovering truth, but a terrain of constant argument, anxiety, and moral performance. Young people today speak with a caution unknown to previous generations, not because they are wiser, but because the cultural atmosphere is charged with suspicion, retribution, and political correctness. Joy has withered. A spirit of existential exhaustion has set in. What was once a vibrant culture of curiosity and exploration has turned brittle, defensive, sterile, and hopeless. This cultural malaise is not simply the fault of political elites or corporate interests, though their role is significant. It reflects a deeper metaphysical crisis. Modern societies, especially in the West, have abandoned their roots in tradition, religion, and transcendent meaning. The result is a loss of continuity across generations. Where once people viewed themselves as part of a lineage, bound to the past and responsible for the future, today's individuals are atomized, living in perpetual presentism. We scroll endlessly, unmoored from place, history, or destiny. Even the technologies meant to unite us, social media, artificial intelligence, and digital networks, have become tools of alienation and separateness. We live in a paradox, more connected, yet more alone than ever before. The promise of instant communication has given way to disembodied relationships, performative identities, and algorithmically curated realities. AI, for all its computational power, cannot simulate presence, empathy, or love. It cannot sit in grief, hold a hand, or witness the sacred. It cannot emit human energy or passion. It only mirrors what it is given, and in a fragmented world, that mirror increasingly reflects our disintegration. And yet, in this fragmentation lies an opportunity. Hope, far from being a passive sentiment, is a radical act. It is not the denial of darkness, but the will to imagine light. History teaches us that human beings, when pressed to their limits, often rediscover forgotten truths. We remember that freedom is not granted by the state, but rooted in the soul, and we have to reclaim it from them. That meaning is not manufactured, but encountered. That dignity is not earned by performance, but bestowed by creation itself. Education, once a vehicle for moral and intellectual formation, has succumbed to bureaucratic inertia and ideological capture. Universities increasingly promote conformity over critical inquiry, activism over contemplation. Excellence, rigor, and open-mindedness, pillars of liberal education, are now viewed with suspicion. Education has become but a process to fuel the neoliberalist machine of never-ending consumption. But cracks are forming in this edifice. Many young people are seeking alternatives. Some are turning back to religion, not as a retreat into dogma, but as a hunger for depth, ritual, and sacred purpose, and bringing this forth in the world. The resurgence of interest in Christianity, Islam, and other spiritual traditions reflects a longing for embodiment in an age of abstraction. These traditions offer more than doctrine, they offer practices, communities, metaphysical clarity, and a grammar for the soul. They remind us that to be human is not merely to think or produce, but to love, to worship, to suffer meaningfully, and to die well. Our ancestors understood this. The modern world, in its rush to master everything, forgot. The great error of our time is the belief that truth can be possessed through control. The dominant model of knowledge, shaped by the Enlightenment and amplified by digital technologies, is mechanistic and reductionist. It privileges the left hemisphere of the brain, linear, analytical, grasping. It sees truth as a puzzle to solve, not a mystery to live. But as neuroscientist Ian McGill-Christ has shown, the right hemisphere, the side attuned to context, emotion, and meaning, is not only more holistic, but arguably more intelligent. It recognizes the limits of language, the necessity of silence, the sanctity of paradox. Truth is not something we construct. It is something that reveals itself. The Greek word for truth, aletheia, means uncovering, removing the veil of modernism. Real knowledge emerges not from domination, but from relationship. It is not captured through facts alone, but through presence, humility, and receptivity. It is a dance between knower and known. This is why the mystical traditions of every religion emphasize silence, emptiness, and the surrender of certainty. As the Desert Fathers taught, one can know God better by not knowing. The brain is not the source of consciousness, but its interface. It is a threshold, not a generator. Consciousness is primary, matter is secondary. This insight, long held by the wisdom traditions and increasingly supported by quantum physics, overturns centuries of materialist dogma. Consciousness is not a byproduct of neurons firing in the skull, but the ground of being itself. Like water in different states, ice, liquid, vapor, matter, and mind are phases of one reality. The sacred is not an add-on to life. It is its source. Nature, too, is not a machine to be exploited, but a living mystery. She births and devours, blesses and terrifies. Our relationship to nature must be one of reverence, not extraction. The Enlightenment fantasy of control, of progress without sacrifice, of consumption without consequence, has led to ecological and spiritual ruin. If we are to survive, we must recover an ethos of humility. We must once again see the earth as a mother, not a warehouse. Even our technologies, when severed from wisdom, become haunted. There is an eerie sense that the systems we have built now run on their own logic, soulless, relentless, indifferent. In religious language, we might say that spirits have entered them. These spirits are not metaphorical. Cultures throughout history have recognized the presence of unseen forces, some good, others malevolent, that influence our lives. Why should systems be immune to such influence? If our hearts can host grace or corruption, why not the platforms we create? This is why spiritual renewal is not optional, it is essential. Without a transformation of consciousness, all our reforms will be cosmetic. We cannot legislate our way out of metaphysical despair. What is needed is not better programs, but better people. Not new ideologies, but renewed hearts. This is the radical edge of hope. It demands personal and collective metanoia, a turning of the soul. AI, for all its marvels, cannot initiate such a turn. It can simulate creativity but not embody it. It can predict but not pray. The human spirit thrives not in certainty, but in the space of holy unknowing. Wisdom often arises not before we learn, but after we have exhausted knowledge. This is the cloud of unknowing described by the mystics, a luminous darkness where the soul finally surrenders control. It is here, in the absence of answers, that the deepest clarity often dawns. To cultivate hope in such a time is to embrace realism. It is to acknowledge the failures of our systems, the rot in our institutions and political rhetoric, the pain on our streets, and still believe that something better is possible. It is not optimism, which expects improvement, but faith, which chooses love regardless of outcomes. As Dostoevsky wrote, beauty will save the world. But not surface beauty, inner radiance, the beauty of truth, of sacrifice, of communion. The body is not merely a machine, it is a temple. It radiates fields of energy, particularly from the heart. Scientific research has shown that the heart's magnetic field can extend several feet beyond the body. This field is coherent when we are in a state of love, gratitude, or peace, and fragmented when we are in fear or resentment. It overlaps with others when we are in close proximity. That's why being close, as in face-to-face conversation, is the most effective form of communicating. It is literally heartfelt. Healing, whether individual or societal, may begin with this coherence. Cancer cells, for instance, appear to forget how to relate to the rest of the body. They become dissociated, anarchic. But when brought back into harmony with the body's field, healing can begin. This metaphor holds for culture. When we are cut off from our spiritual field, our civilization becomes cancerous. Love, in the deepest sense, is not sentimental, it is metaphysical. It is the force that binds atoms, communities, families, and galaxies. Love is not just between persons, it is the glue of the cosmos. Quantum entanglement suggests that once particles are linked, they remain connected regardless of distance. So, too, with souls. When I become a husband, my wife becomes a wife. We are transformed together. Real relationship is not contractual, but ontological. We become something new in each other's presence. This is the forgotten truth of being. We are not isolated units, bouncing off each other. We are interpenetrating fields of meaning, desire, and spirit. When we realign our minds and bodies with the heart, when we reawaken the third eye, the eye of the soul, we begin to see again, not just with sight, but with insight. We begin to perceive not only what is, but what is becoming. We sense the currents beneath events. We discern the holy beneath the ordinary. The collapse of the liberal world order, then, is not the end. It is an invitation to imagine a new world rooted not in control, but in communion, not in dominance, but in reverence, not in scarcity, but in grace. We are not called to rebuild the old order with new tools. We are called to become new ourselves, to live not as consumers, but as stewards, not as machines, but as mysteries. If enough of us accept this invitation, not through slogans or manifestos, but through lives of integrity and love, the world will begin to change. Slowly, at first, imperceptibly, like yeast in the dough, like a spark in the dark. This is how revolutions of the spirit always begin, not with noise, but with silence, not with power, but with presence, not with certainty, but with wonder. And so we return to the beginning. The sands are shifting, yes. But perhaps they are not just collapsing beneath us. They are forming new ground. Sacred ground. If we listen, if we wait, if we love, we may yet walk upon it.